The opinions expressed on this program represent the viewpoints of individual authors or contributors and do not necessarily reflect those of Troy University. This is Alabama Politics with Steve Flowers, an in-depth interview with Alabama's top political newsmakers. Now, from the studios of Troy University, here is Steve Flowers.
I'm Steve Flowers, and welcome to Alabama Politics. Folks, we're very fortunate tonight to have as our guest a statesman and a state leader rather than a politician. I'm not saying our politicians are not statesmen and leaders. I'm just saying we have an educator, Dr. Todd Shackett, who is president of Southern Union College over in Lee County and Opelika, Auburn. He's got branches all over that part of the state too, but we're going to talk about Southern Union and what they mean to the state of Alabama. And those of you who've been around Alabama a long time realize the status of Southern Union, what a great job it's done for the state. But we appreciate Dr. Shackett coming and being with us on our show and taking time out of his busy schedule running a major college. Thank you, Dr. Shackett.
Well, thank you, Steve.
I'm going to call you Todd, you don't mind.
Well, actually, I'm not a doctor. In fact, I'm a little bit unusual as far as college presidents go in that I've never worked in education prior to coming to Southern Union to become president. So I actually started my career, a long time ago in manufacturing. I studied to be an engineer, worked several years at General Motors, and then switched over to medical device manufacturing, where I started my career in automation and a lot of engineering type of activities. Got moved up to management, which I found I liked, despite thinking I never wanted to be a manager. And it sort of escalated from there, moving to running factories, running projects, and eventually finding myself here in Alabama back in 2010 to run an operation up in Opelika, and developed a lot of relationship within the community.
You know, I had heard that. I knew that you had a manufacturing and business background, and you were unique in the college system. And actually, I learned that when your mayor-elect over there, Eddie Smith, was on my television show, and we got talking, and we got over to Southern Union, and I didn't realize what a great relationship as far as the Opelika High School and Southern Union right there.
Right across the street.
Collaborating like that. And I was over there visiting with you the other day and saw it myself. But you do have a unique background, and it's perfect for what the community college system is doing now. And whenever I talk to Chancellor Baker about your situation over there, they're so proud that they got someone to come out of business and industry with your outstanding resume to head the college. Now, what year did you came to Opelika for a manufacturing?
Right.
You were doing industrial development over there too, wasn't you?
A little bit of both, yeah. Not formally, but working very closely with those economic development folks, particularly around the workforce development. So I came in 2010 to run a factory that made dialyzers.
15 years ago.
Yes, that's correct.
2010.
Yeah, and I was running a factory for several years. Got put in charge of an expansion of that factory, and then got promoted. And they asked me to move to Chicago, which I didn't want to do. Didn't want to uproot my family yet again. So I took a role within the corporation where I had 23 factories around the world. A team of myself would go around and look for improvements, operational improvements, people improvements, you name it. So I did that for a couple years. And the interesting point
Still lived in Opelika.
Yeah, well, my bed was in Opelika. I was living all over the world, it seemed like. My wife was a saint to put up with it. But a point I want to make is when I came to Opelika in 2010, the technology was so sophisticated in this factory, I immediately set up relationships with Auburn University's engineering department and Southern Union's technical division. Because
now what business were you with? What company was it with?
It was Gambro when I was hired. It ended up being Baxter, which is a worldwide corporation, medical devices. In fact, those factories that I was responsible for towards the end, we made everything from pharmaceuticals, drug delivery systems, diagnostic kits, pumps, you name it. We did a little bit of everything.
So you were there with, is it called Baxter now?
Unfortunately, that factory has since closed, but yeah, it was Baxter when I left.
So y'all were doing really high-tech stuff, and you engaged Auburn and Southern Union to help you with workforce.
Yeah, the product itself filters the blood. It's a pretty complicated device, and then the technology used to manufacturing these devices was completely automated. Just very, not the easiest thing to learn intuitively. It would take some time even for experienced people to get to know the ins and outs of the equipment. So bringing students in, by the time they graduated, they had enough time on the floor that the ones that were the stronger ones, we would hire them on full time. The ones that maybe weren't as strong, we would just say, good luck with your next job. And we built a real strong workforce. And those Southern Union students, we hired quite a few of them. And I ended up sending some of my employees to Southern Union. So we built a very strong relationship. Flash forward a couple years, Mayor Fuller calls me and says, would you be on the selection committee? And I said, sure.
For Southern Union?
Yeah, for the president. And I didn't realize they didn't have a full-time president. All the folks I'd ever...
So the mayor was on that committee?
Correct.
But was Jimmy Baker chancellor? He was?
Yes, he was. It was
Okay.
like the year he took over, I think. They were looking
Okay.
for a full-time president.
But he got local people to be on to help him with the selection
They
committee.
wanted to make sure whoever they put in there could be a community member, not just a college administrator. And so
That was their mission, to find someone who wasn't a traditional, when they came after it.
I didn't know that. They didn't explain that to me until a couple months later.
So when Fuller called you, do you think in his mind, he had you in mind for that job?
I don't think he did, and I had never even dreamt of myself as being a college president. I was a manufacturing guy. And a few months go by, and they hadn't hired anybody yet. And I said, well, you're still looking for somebody. And one thing led to another. I realized they weren't looking for the traditional, sitting back in an armchair listening to opera like you see on the movies. They were looking for somebody who looked at careers. And I've always looked at education as a means to an end, and that is career, not the diploma. And so that worked out just fine. I applied, it went well, and so far, 7 years later, they haven't gotten rid of me, so I'm assuming it's going okay.
Gary Fuller has done a real good job as mayor.
He's amazing. So when I first moved to Opelika, it was just starting to come alive. And from the downtown area to the industrial parks, the investment that has happened and the job creation and the amenities that go with that, the restaurants and the parks, it's like night and day in the past 15 years. So he built a very strong presence there.
He's left in a good financial condition, too.
Oh, yeah.
Unbelievable. Yeah. But now, going to Southern Union, you came on with Southern Union, what year would that have been?
2018.
So you became president right off the bat.
Yep.
Now, had you been used to managing that many people? Like, how many employees do you have?
About 250. I've managed plants of almost 600 people in the
So
past.
the only 250 people that work at Southern Union?
Full-time. Yeah.
I didn't realize it was that.
Yep.
I thought it was bigger than that.
Yeah, for about 5,100 students. It's a good ratio. It's about right, I'd say. We're not overstaffed. We're not.
So you got
understaffed.
5,100. Is that at the main campus or the whole thing?
That's over all three. About 85% of those in Opelika, probably 10% in Wadley, and the other 5% in Valley.
Okay. So, but was a unique experience though, coming to be a president after being in manufacturing and but you'd managed 600 employees at your other plant.
I think the biggest thing, and I anticipated this, is the rate of change in manufacturing is daily, right? When you make a decision, you look at your watch, not the calendar. And of course, I knew in academics, it's a little different world. And the urgency is less too, right? You're not have customers screaming at you and deliveries to be made that day. So I had to back up a little bit, show a little more patience, assess, and I've always done that in every job I've had, is assess where we are before I start throwing ideas, and really try to bring people along with where we need to go. And to me, the goal has always been change people's lives for the better while meeting the needs of our community. And that's what we've been doing, that's what we intend to do, and we're making great progress. We see it every day, where I think 80+% of our students stay locally. And if you look at where the key players in a lot of these industries, whether it be hospitals, small business, manufacturing plants, construction, a good number of them come from Southern Union.
Speaking of that, you're on the path, and I'm surprised there are not more presidents that have come that once they've had such success with you, with your engineering and manufacturing background. And the whole world, not just Alabama, but the future in higher education is where you are. Because what you said is and I think the average layman realizes that, Todd, is that they don't want to send their child off to college to get a philosophy degree from Auburn, Alabama. They want their child, if they're technically inclined, to become a nurse or a welder or a heating and cooling person or anything that those people make really better livings than teachers do. I hate to say that.
Well, and we need teachers, and I think pay for teachers is coming up. It still, I think, needs to go a little bit further. But I'll say this: I told this to my own 3 children. I tell it to all my students. So every month I have lunch with about 10 to 12 students on each of the 3 campuses, about 35 students a month. And I ask them where they want to be, and a lot of them don't know, and some spout off something they've seen on television that probably isn't very marketable.
Yeah.
And I encourage them to first look at their passion, look at what their competencies will be, but also look at the marketability, particularly in the area you want to live, which is mostly locally. What kind of job opportunities are there? And if you can combine those three things, your career will do very well.
From a political angle, from where I have always been all my life, it's just so easy to ascertain that the growth, why there's such a growth in the community college system and in your college and others throughout the state that are saying, look, workforce development is where the future is. Mm-hmm. And so and the average person realizes also, an average legislator, having been a legislator for decades before becoming a political columnist and journalist, I would say this to my superintendents in my district. I'd say, y'all need to really take a kid and give them a test and say, what do you really like? Mm-hmm. This is what you said. What you told your children?
Your passion. Yeah.
I told my children the same thing. I have 2 daughters, and I says, what do you really? They were curious what they should major in. I said, what do you like? Mm-hmm. What is your? Because
what drives you?
Life's too short.
Yep.
Not to do something you like, and the money will work itself out.
That's right. The example I give, I was a math and science student early on. I was kind of a nerdy kind of person. I like solving problems. I like figuring things out, fixing things, developing things. So I went the engineering route. But those of us, and I've shifted over the years, I'm more of a people helper now. But if you're somebody who gets a lot of joy out of helping other people, you might want to go into teaching or nursing, right, or some sort of capacity where you're reaching out to other people.
What I was getting around to saying as a legislator from a political standpoint, I was at your meeting the other day with probably 7, 8 of your legislative delegation, and I can see, having sat where they sat, that's appealing to a legislator to go to Montgomery and get proper funding for a school in my district where, first of all, 95% of the kids who attend that school live in my area.
That's right.
And live in the state of Alabama. That's where most of my constituents are coming from. Secondly, 80% of them are going to stay there.
That's right.
They major in engineer or mechanical stuff to stay in that area of the state, in East Alabama, and work and do what they want to do. I mean, that to me is like taking candy from a baby, politically. I'm just saying, if I'm a legislator from Lee County, now you got to look after Auburn, obviously, but Gretchen also made me aware of something, too. One day I was over there visiting with y'all when Eddie Smith was running for mayor, and we were talking about, she said Southern Union has the largest number of Lee County kids attending as freshmen than Auburn does.
I didn't know that number.
She said,
it would not surprise me.
So many kids, Auburn and Alabama have gotten so big.
They draw from all over the state, all over the country, really.
I had, for example, when after left your meeting, I had coffee with Dora James, Sid's mama, and Sid, and she said one of her daughters is going to Southern Union because it's just too big for them. They've got to, they got to get accustomed, and they can get those freshman courses and not be overwhelmed by.
There's a lot of people that aren't ready for the big school experience. Intellectually, they get great grades, but they came from a class, maybe they're a little introverted, and to walk into a class with 400 students is very intimidating.
That's exactly what Dora said.
Yep. So you come to our school where you've got 25 students, and the instructor knows you, and the instructor's there to teach. They're not there for research. And there's just, I think, a little closer connection and help them build that confidence so when they do transfer to the 4-year school, they're ready.
Exactly. But that's always been known that a lot of local kids have said, look, I'd rather go get my freshman stuff at Southern Union and get more acclimated to college and not been overwhelmed with sorority life or something like that.
Right, and those are all great things, but they'll come. You'll
right.
get the opportunity to do that down the road.
But going back to your enrollment, too, that has got to be an easy sell as a college president of a community college in Alabama, especially in a thriving community where there's going to be a need for technical and workforce training, but that also brings in an industry. Like, you got to have a progressive mayor who's going to be able to sell Southern Union. We've got academic people who we can train them to come in, and y'all even specialize in that. Let's say a company like you used to work for. Says we're fixing to do this type of manufacturing. Well, you'll create a course for that.
That's right. We will work with their engineers, technicians, even sometimes bring their equipment to the college so we can train alongside the employer, their employees without having to distract from production. Having run factories, when the machine goes down is not the time to be training somebody because you want that machine up and productive. So we have the luxury of taking as much time as we need to explain it, even make a few mistakes, correct those mistakes until they really understand the subject matter. We sign off, they go back to work, and then they've got those skill sets.
Now, how much is it? And you've been there for 6 or 7 years.
7 years, yeah.
During that time, if your enrollment's 5,100, what was it when you first came there?
Just over 4,000, so about 25%.
25%.
Yeah.
That's been the norm, hasn't it, around the state?
Across the state of Alabama.
The upper tier community college system.
For all of us.
Everybody.
From the small schools to large schools. So it is a unified direction we are all headed. So I'm here to talk about Southern Union, but I will tell you, everywhere in the state, there is a drivable community college that is offering, if not the same, very similar opportunities to those residents.
So the community colleges are seeing about a 7% increase in enrollment every year. Every year.
That's correct. Some more than others. And we've got some schools, I think they were sleeping giants. I was talking to my friend Dr. Charles down in Mobile. Bishop State, I think they've doubled in that same amount of time.
Have they?
Yeah.
Because of the Austin and that sort of thing.
And just getting focused on workforce development.
What about this? The question I will ask is this: we have seen phenomenal growth and accentuation on workforce development. I think has created a lot of that in Alabama. Are other states' community college systems seeing that kind of growth?
I'm not aware of anybody is doing as well as Alabama. In fact, it came up in our president's conference. There are several states across the United States that are calling Chancellor Baker to get in on it, which I think is great for the country. So I don't think there's any secrets that we want to hide. Of course, we compete to draw businesses, but I think there's probably going to be enough to go around.
Do you think it's because Chancellor Baker has spearheaded the concept of let's get kids and he'll build a curriculum around getting, like what you said, focused on when you get through, you've got a job?
He has been crystal clear. We are the best avenue for people to change their lives for the better. I don't care where you come from. If you really want to, we will find a path for you where you can completely change your life in a very positive way. And when I talk about these technical jobs, now these aren't $15 an hour, $20 an hour jobs. These are 35, 40, sometimes more per hour. You're talking about some students, and I just had a bunch of them graduate recently, that with a little bit of overtime, they are making 6 figures after 5 or 6 semesters of college at age 20, which is way more than I ever made after 5 years of engineering school.
Well, let me ask you this question. What are your top 3 or 4 majors?
So our top one is nursing.
Nursing number one.
We are a high-quality, high-caliber nursing program, and that is almost our flagship. Our nurses find jobs before they ever graduate. They're sought after. It's a competitive situation.
They probably attracted some of the Atlanta hospitals too, aren't they?
They go all over, but again, I think
East Alabama is where most of them wind up.
We are the big provider for East Alabama. They tend to stay very close. Some Tallapoosa County down in here, Montgomery area, as far over as Atlanta. Some leave the state, which is different than a lot of the bigger colleges where they tend to be a little bit more mobile and probably more comfortable with moving to other states. Somebody asked me why that is. I said there's a couple of reasons. I think many of our students are already established. They've got families, they've got mortgages or rents, so they're not really in a position to leave. But a lot of them haven't been out that far. A big vacation is Panama City, where I think some students, I look at my own family, they've been to Europe, they've been to Caribbean, all over the country. The idea of picking up and moving to another state isn't quite as daunting as you've pretty much stayed in our state most of your life.
So out of your 4,500 students, do you offer the nursing at Wadley too?
We do. We offer that. It's our summer cohort, we call it. It starts out up in Wadley. They do have to come to Opelika for the very end, which is where they do a lot of their clinicals. But yeah, we've got that over up in Wadley and in Opelika.
So what you're saying is most of the kids who come there are going to stay right in that vicinity.
That's right.
That's their home.
That is.
They don't want to
That's across programs.
Their families there, and like you said, they may already be married, have a family.
Yep.
So their husbands or whatever wife's working already somewhere. That makes sense. Now, it's Wadley in Randolph County.
Yes, it is. Yep.
So do they have a hospital in Randolph?
I think Tanner's the closest one. Yeah, I think it's up towards Wadawi.
Yeah.
That's the biggest hospital that we're affiliated with.
But East Alabama does not have an affiliated hospital. It's just that one hospital.
No, they've got one over in Chambers County as well.
Okay.
They purchased that a couple of years ago. So
They bought the one in Chambers County.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that one's pretty prosperous, isn't it?
It's doing well. It's growing, I understand, and we talk with those folks pretty regularly.
So your nursing is number one.
Yep. And then I think mechatronics is our number 2. And if
Well,
you're
I
not
ain't
familiar with
big at that.
mechatronics,
What is that?
that's what we used to call industrial maintenance. But the shifting landscape of manufacturing has required that to evolve. So back in my day, I was a mechanical engineer, and I would usually have someone on my team who was the electrical engineer. I'd go in and do my part, that person come in and do their part. Well, now it's so integrated. You can't just know one thing. So they have it's called a multi-craft technician. They not only know pneumatics, hydraulics, and other mechanical systems, they know robotics, AC, DC, high voltage, low voltage, robotics, and they're able to fix just a myriad of situations at the factory floor. So that has become, we were struggling, go back 7 years ago now, it was the biggest in-demand request from our industrial partners. I need mechatronics techs. I think we had 9 people in the program. Now we've got, I want to say closer to 70 or 80. It's our biggest program in the technical field.
What's third?
Well, actually, I say that. It's the third. Second is cosmetology.
Is it?
And it's interesting because when I first got to the college, it falls under the technical, because it's a straight-to-work program. It fits well. And they were giving out WIOA funding for all the various programs in that division. And I asked the question, well, what about cosmetology? And they said, no, President Shackett, that doesn't qualify. I said, well, what are the qualification requirements? Said, well, it has to be high demand, high wage. I said, yeah, okay, what's the problem? He said, well, it's not considered high wage. I said, well, my wife just got her hair done the other day. I said, whoever does hers is high wage, I'm telling you right now. And I think a lot of it is, what I like about that, it's very versatile. If you want to raise your family and do it part-time, you can. If you want to open your own salon and do quite well, you can. So that is actually our second biggest program currently.
Does cosmetology, does that encompass men's and women's?
Yeah. We see both men and women students, and I know the last 3 or 4 places I've gone, and my current hairstylist, a Southern Union grad. Yep.
So, did you know when they were in school?
Oh, probably 30 years ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
They were there that long ago, yeah.
Yeah.
What about, so that's interesting.
Yeah.
Is that true of other campuses? Would that be the order? I know nursing has become the priority
it's
for
big.
a lot of us.
Yeah, I think it depends. I know down in Mobile, I think welding, a lot of programs.
Because that shipbuilding.
Shipbuilding. It really depends on what's happening in your local economy. And with us, with all the automated factories and so forth, automotive is a big program. In the health science, I know radiography techs are big. Physical therapy has become one of our bigger ones. So it depends.
One thing that I want to mention before we quit is that I find that so interesting, and what a great relationship that Opelika High School has with Southern Union, being your next door, right there on the same campus. And like I said, I learned that when Eddie Smith was here. And you've got to have a lot of dual enrollment kids at Opelika High School. My question to you is, if they're doing dual enrollment at Southern Union, and a lot of times a kid will have their full freshman year already done when they get there. Will they go to Auburn or Southern Union, or does it have to be at Southern Union?
No, they can go where they want. Those credits will transfer. We actually have had some students, and other colleges have too, where they receive their associate's degree from Southern Union a couple days before they get their high school diploma.
So they've got 2 years out of the way.
Yes.
While they're in high school.
I had a brother-sister team homeschooled that both got their associate's degree in machining before they were 18 years old.
My goodness.
Yeah.
But now they were going to Southern Union for a workforce, a technical career.
Which is an associate in applied science.
Let's say a kid who wants to major in English or engineering at Auburn eventually.
Yeah. You would not be able to get your entire degree, but you could probably get, if you were really focused from sophomore year on, you could probably get a good 60 plus credits before you go to, and you could transfer right into a state school like Auburn.
All right, let me give you an example. Let's say that there's a real bright student at Opelika High School, and they ultimately want a 4-year degree, and let's say in engineering or architecture.
We see this.
Because that's where Auburn specializes in, or is known for, engineering and architecture. Other things too, but primarily are the big ticket things. Probably there's two of probably the architecture and engineering. Auburn's in the top 10 schools in the Southeast.
Right.
As far as competing with Georgia Tech maybe or something. But let's say you've got a kid who knows they want to be an engineer, but they're right across the street from Southern Union, so they're getting their dual enrollment. They get their freshman courses out of the way, like the freshman courses they have
all your
taken.
calculus, all your physics, your
You can
chemistry.
get that.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
But that also would encourage them to go ahead and get the second year at Southern Union. Have you ever put a number on who the kids who are doing that, or have you seen them, observed?
I would have to look it up, but it's in my impact report here. But no, last year we had about 1,100 dual enrollment students. I think that's gone up this year. Our projections are go up this year.
That doesn't count a year 5,100, does it?
Yes, it does.
It does.
It
does
does
count.
count, yes, it does. So the number I'm not sure, but certainly if you were focused on an engineering degree, you could take all those high-level math and science classes. Some of those are offered at the high school now, very different than, say,
In the high school.
In fact, we hire their instructors. So your calculus, your calculus 2, physics even, perhaps chemistry, you could take that in your own high school with an authorized instructor who meets our credentials and get college credit for those classes. When you start getting to differential equations and some of these other higher levels that aren't offered at the high school, they could come over to Southern Union and take those with us.
There's a lot of students doing that.
Oh, yeah.
And
Well, they save a lot of money. And the WIOA funds do apply not only towards your technical classes like machining or welding or robotics, but also towards certain maths and sciences. So your physics, your chemistry, your calculus, those are also cost-free to the student.
That's amazing.
But even if they were to pay the tuition to take their English, their history, it's at a fraction of what those 4-year tuition rates are. So for their parents, I like to joke, we have a great relationship with Auburn University with Path to the Plains, which if you're not familiar with that, it's not only taking your first 2 years then transferring, you're taking classes at Auburn your first 2 years with us. So you might be on our campus Monday and Wednesday, but down in Auburn Tuesday and Thursday.
Boy, y'all have got a perfect situation with that Opelika, Southern Union, Auburn. Y'all all working together.
And the superintendents of those schools, President Roberts, we talk all the time. We help each other. It's the end result we're looking for, and that's a ready, capable graduate who's ready to hit the ground running in whatever field they choose, preferably something that's applicable to what we look for in our community, but we are all on the same page.
Well, Todd, you're doing a great job over there, and I appreciate your work for the state of Alabama. Our time's up, unfortunately. But, folks, our guest tonight has been Todd Shackett, who's president of Southern Union College in Opelika, that area of the state, and it's one of the fastest growing and most prosperous community colleges in the state, if not the nation. And we thank you for taking time to be with us, and thank you viewers for watching. Hope you tune again next week. Thank you, Todd.
Thanks, Steve.
This has been Alabama Politics with Steve Flowers, a production of Troy University Television. Opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily those of Troy University, its administration, faculty, staff, or students.